Good evening and welcome to our Wednesday Creative Living series. It's good to see you, and whether you found your way here out of curiosity, routine, or quiet longing for something more, you are home here. You are welcome. You belong just as you are. And this isn't just another Wednesday. It's a good Wednesday. It's a good gathering for each and every one of us. It's a gathering where we say yes to the greatness already unfolding within us. Yes to life. Yes to abundance. Yes to all the good things. So tonight we'll focus on quiet things, the ones that start small but grow into something beautiful. The power of small beginnings. We are here to remind you that the soul does not bloom overnight. Greatness is the slow and divine work of spirit moving through us. It's unseen sometimes, yet unstoppable, the work of spirit. It is less a destination and more a quiet unfolding. It's a becoming that reveals in its perfect time. The things of spirit may not be seen on the outside, but so much is happening on the inside, and its timing is always perfect. It begins as something barely visible, sometimes like a seed tucked in dark soil. You don't see it, you do not know what is happening within. Sometimes a trickle that one day becomes a river. A star flickering quietly before the sky begins to glow. Those little things. This evening is not about striving or forcing. It's about honoring what is just starting to stir. Those nudges, those internal guidance, those still small voice. The tiny shifts, the soft yes, the breath of courage that returns after a fall. Some beginnings are loud and unmistakable, but others come gently. Like morning lights on the mountains or roots growing deeper in the dark, long before the first green shoots appear. The very, very tiny things that happen that don't amount to nothing initially. We want to listen to that and pay attention to it. You may not see it yet, but something has already begun in you. And like every tree, every stream, every constellation, it knows how to grow. It knows how to rise because it's divine. So let this moment be water to the seed of who you are becoming. We are constantly raising our consciousness as we listen to these words of truth. So remember, you are not behind. You are on time. You are becoming. And the question always is, what have you come here to do? Be. What have I come here to be? What are you becoming? All those experiences, they are divine orchestrations to bring you to where you are now. So you are in the perfect place at the perfect time. There's a quote, the scripture says, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord's Spirit rejoices to see the work begin. This verse reminds us that great things start small, hidden, tender, uncelebrated. Example, the mightiest oak once lived humbly as an acorn. The greatest symphony began with a single note. And every soul that ever walked in greatness first walked in obscurity. Again, those things that you're doing, daily devotion, journaling, do not despise all those things. Your daily steps that are building up to something. As a matter of fact, everything that we are now, that seeds to what we'll become tomorrow. Dr. Greg would often talk about Louise here, that was a practitioner here. And her journals eventually became a big book, best-selling book. So tonight we look again at the small things, the tiny habits, the quiet prayers, the single yes to healing, the whisper of hope that says, try again. This is where greatness is born. You wake up every time, you do your meditation, you do your treatment, your prayers, you have your routine, and it's all building up. It's all building up. And one day, suddenly something happens, and it's an accumulation of all the things, all the seeds you've been sowing. The choice to breathe instead of break, they're all seeds. The moment you forgive, even if it's just a little, the half step forward when you are still unsure. It looks very vague, but you're taking that step and trusting the process of life. The decision to speak kindly to yourself. I love, accept, and approve of myself. These are seeds of transformation. We go ahead and bless the small things. The tear you finally allowed to fall. The journal page you filled with truth. The boundary you quietly honored. And the courage it took to rest instead of run. This is how healing starts. That's greatness playing out.
Sorry, I can only do that if something is playing.
We remember the power in the unnoticed, the soft no to that made room for the yes. The sunrise you watched instead of the news, and the 5 minutes you sat in silence to center yourself. We remember the prayer that didn't sound like a prayer, but was. Or you thought you were just blabbing, but you're speaking your mind out. Greatness does not arrive with grandeur. It begins with a spark. Sometimes the spark is gentle nudge towards something unfamiliar. You just know that you know. You don't even know why you're doing it. It doesn't make sense to your faculties, but you're doing it. A persistent desire you cannot explain, or a dream that seems too big for your current reality. Small me, this cannot be achieved. I can never get to this. And that's why we're always mindful of what we speak. Because your words are powerful. So when you have that dream and it seems too big for you to comprehend, do not speak or work against yourself. Trust the process. Small beginnings may feel ordinary, unimpressive, and even frustrating, but we do not mistake the size of the beginning for the size of its destiny. Some of the most important things in life begin quietly, not with spotlight, but with a whisper. Those silent voices, that inner voice. Write it down whenever those things happen. Write it in your journal. With time, it will make sense. It will add up. Trust yourself. Not with certainty, but with a question. Not with a crowd, but with a single willing heart. That makes me remember some statement that Spirit God is always looking for a willing heart, not necessarily an equipped one, equipped vessel, willing. If you're willing and obedient, you will eat the good of the land. So, but just because something is small now doesn't mean it lacks power. It may be the very thing that shifts everything. The fact that it's small, it's tiny, it's insignificant, does not mean it's not potent. If it's divine, then it has the fullness of divine in it. Take the olive tree, for example. When it's first planted, it can take more than a decade before it bears fruit. 10 to 15 years of what looks like stillness, no fruit, no fanfare, just soil, sun, and silence. But underneath, something incredible is happening. Roots are stretching deep, strength is being built, endurance is taking shape. If someone judged the tree by its early years, they might call it slow or unproductive. But in time, that same tree will produce fruits for generations, for some over 1,000 years. This is the soul's journey too. We are here to remember that the soul does not bloom overnight. Just like the olive tree, greatness is not rushed. And we have these things of greatness in each and every one of us because everything divine is great. It is the slow and holy work of spirit, unseen yet unstoppable. So it's not arrogant to say, I'm great. You are great. All we do through our classes is to sharpen and water the seed of greatness in us because we are all great. Okay, let me share a personal story about this starting small. After graduating from university in Nigeria, I found myself in a season that didn't look like success. The jobs I hoped for weren't opening up. And in the meantime, I took a position as a sales assistant in a small boutique, local boutique. A role many considered beneath my qualifications. But I chose to show up fully. One day, a young woman came into the store to shop. I helped her with her selections, offering the same care and professionalism I believed every customer deserved. Afterwards, she paused and said, "You sound like someone who's been formally educated." I told her yes, that I had a degree. She asked for my resume, which I gave her, not knowing what would happen next. She passed the resume to someone at a bank, and a few days later, I was invited to take an aptitude test. Prior to now, I'd also taken some other tests, other places, and wasn't successful. That moment became the door to a rewarding 16-year career in banking and finance. It began not with spotlight, but with humility. Not with applause, but with integrity in a place no one thought mattered. I'm so glad I didn't despise that small beginning because that boutique was more than a job. It was the soil where my next season began to bloom. That's the power of staying faithful to where you are, even when it doesn't look like where you are going. It's a seed, it's leading somewhere. And this is why the scriptures tells us, despise not the days of humble beginnings. Despise not those little things. They're probably teaching us character, or we're learning so many from that. Because small doesn't mean insignificant. Slow doesn't mean stuck. And unseen doesn't mean spirit isn't working. Your beginning, no matter how humble or hidden, is spiritual, is sacred. Sometimes the door to greatness is disguised as a moment no one would notice. Sometimes the door to greatness is covered and despised. And only when we quiet ourselves and go within, we'll see this. But Spirit sees it all, and every faithful step is honored. Every faithful step is honored. Like the olive tree, your roots may go deeper than you realize. Your life may be forming something lasting, even if the fruit hasn't appeared. Trust the process. Do not measure yourself by whatever that is happening outside. Spirit doesn't measure the worth by size. It measures purpose by alignment and by truth. Again, I just remembered a story of, it was Moses, that God's Spirit had to ask, what do you have in your hand? What is that talent? What is that gift? That is what Spirit will use. That is why we are asked not to rush, not to judge, and not to give up too soon. We are invited to trust the unfolding, especially when it begins quietly. Destiny doesn't have to be loud to be true, to be real. It is moved by Spirit, guided by grace, and timed in perfect harmony. Most times it begins not with a noise, but with a knowing. That knowing that you can't describe. Why are you doing this? I just feel like doing it. You just know. You're just comfortable. You're just at peace with the step. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to the faculties. And sometimes the clearest example of this truth comes from a life that began in silence. Another example, the story of Dr. Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin didn't speak until she was nearly 4 years old. She was diagnosed with autism in the 1950s, a time when little was understood about the condition. Doctors suggested she be institutionalized. Instead, her mother believed in her. She nurtured her with love, structure, and patience. Temple's world was different. She saw patterns and details others missed. Although she struggled socially, she had a deep intuitive connection with animals, especially livestock. Her love for animals led her to study animal behavior. And that quiet interest, that deep inner knowing, became her path. She began designing more humane systems for livestock industry. Systems that reduced animals' fear and suffering before slaughter. At first, she was dismissed. We'll definitely have challenges as we walk towards our path. An autistic mind in a world that didn't understand her, but she persisted. Today, over half of the cattle in the US are handled in facilities designed by Temple Grandin. An autistic that was despised. But there was something within that she pursued. She became a renowned author, professor, and advocate, not just for animals, but for autism and neurodiversity. She opened the world's eyes to the gifts found in different ways of thinking. And it all started with what seemed like limitation, with quiet beginnings, with one small step at a time, filled by love, clarity of purpose, and a willingness to keep going, even when misunderstood. A willingness to keep going, to keep saying yes to life, to keep trusting the process of life, to wake up every morning and take that step, to wake up every morning and do your meditation and treat and trust and know that all is well. Her story reminds us that when what seems like small or even broken beginning may be the very soil from which something sacred happens. we are reminded that spirit uses everything, everything, even the mistakes, even the shortcomings, even the failures. Those are perfect seeds in the hands of spirit. So do not regret any experience. It's all working out for your own good. Nothing is wasted, not our awkward starts, not our moments of doubt, not even the parts of us we think are too broken or too late or too small. They are just perfect the way it is. The scars are beautiful. Spirit does not require perfection to begin a good work. Spirit does not require perfection to begin that good work. It moves through what feels incomplete. It breathes life into what feels inadequate. Even our weakness is not a barrier. And that's why the scripture says, let the weak say, I'm strong. It's often the very place where grace pours in most freely. There are no excuses. Every broken place is a perfect place for spirit to work. What you see as limitations, spirit may be using as a foundation. What you call delay, the divine may be calling preparation. The seeds are taking root. In the hands of spirit, your small beginning becomes an embryo of greatness. Your vulnerability becomes strength. And your story, with all its cracks and curves, becomes a vessel of something great. We often think our weakness would disqualify us. We look at the areas where we struggle, our insecurities, past mistakes, fears, and lack of resources, and quietly wonder how anything great could come from this. But spirit has a long and beautiful history of turning what looks like weakness into vessels of strength. It has never failed. It will never fail. Not with you. Moses stuttered and was terrified to speak, but he became the voice that led a nation to freedom. Again, David was the youngest, overlooked and underestimated, but he became a king after God's heart. Esther was an orphan raised in exile, but she became the queen who saved her people. And again, it's not just in the scriptures. Brian Stevenson, founder of the Equal Injustice Initiative, started with one client on death row and a belief that every life has value. Today, he leads a movement for criminal justice reform, human rights, and dignity for the marginalized and forgotten. It will always, most times, start small. Brené Brown shared her research of vulnerability in a TED talk. She didn't expect anyone to notice, and it became a global movement. Her work has reshaped our perceptions of courage, connection, shame, and authenticity in a personal and professional life. Again, Amanda Gorman wrote poems in her notebook long before she stood at the US Capitol speaking truth to millions. Her words have become a voice for justice, healing, and hope, inspiring new generation to believe in the power of language. And that is how we'll hear about your own name if you believe. Do not despise that humble beginning. Each began with something small, a client, a poem, a talk, but Spirit made them in that beginning and breathed them in with something greater. This is the power of small beginnings. When aligned with love and purpose, they ripple far beyond what you can imagine, exceedingly abundantly and above what you think or imagine, through that power that is at work within you. So consider the butterfly. Before the beauty, before the wings, before the flight, there is a cocoon, a dark enclosed space. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, but inside, the caterpillar is dissolving, literally breaking down and losing its form. It must let go of what was in order to become what it was always meant to be. The process is not visible, it's hidden. And you know what? It is very necessary. The cocoon is sacred space. It's not a delay or punishment. It is the womb of transformation. It's a holy pause, the pause that refreshes, a place where identity shifts and destiny are rewritten. Maybe going through a phase. There's a required process for where you are going to. The struggle is not punishment, it's preparation. We too go through cocoon seasons, moments where we feel stuck, uncertain, and unseen. Times when nothing seems to be moving. Even though something powerful is unfolding beneath the surface. We may be going through that, we may have gone through that. And it is in this hidden season that Spirit does some of the deepest work, breaking down what no longer serves us, rearranging our vision, calling us to trust without seeing. So if you feel like you are in the dark, you are not being buried, you are being transformed. Your wings are being formed in silence. Again, the ego is impatient. It wants quick results, instant recognition, and visible success. It measures progress by how fast things happen and how others respond. It gets anxious in the waiting and uncomfortable in silence. But the soul moves differently. The soul doesn't rush. It knows that real growth takes time. Like fruit ripening on the vine, like roots deepening in the soil. We are here always to remind you that you are not behind, you are not left behind, you are not failing. You are in the process. Trust the process. It's all working out for your own good. Right now, your soul may be ripening into something you can't fully name, but it's real and it's worthy. So be gentle with yourself. Let go of the need to rush and lean into the grace of divine timing. Perfect timing. You don't need the full plan. You don't need to have the full picture just to respond to the next nudge. Just respond. Just align. The spark of greatness is often disguised as a quiet prompting. Greatness is not about what you do, it's about what you become. In our teaching, our consciousness expands first. Seek first the kingdom within, and all else is added. Okay, let's bring this truth into our modern world with living proof. YouTube began in 2005 as a simple idea by three friends who wanted an easier way to share video clips after a dinner party. The first video was an 18-second clip called Me at the Zoo. It wasn't flashy and it didn't go viral. But what began as a simple need to share grew into a platform that will host spiritual talks, global movements, and educational revolutions. It serves millions because it meets a need. The takeaway, the universe supports ideas that serve, uplift, and connect. Again, Malala Yousafzai, at just 11 years old, started anonymously blogging about girls' education in Pakistan under the Taliban rule. There was no platform, no followers. Okay, just a minute. There was no platform, no followers, just truth. Her blog became a seed of global awareness. She was later targeted and shot, but she survived and rose even more, became stronger, eventually, she became the youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate. What began in silence became a voice that echoed through the world. Divine purpose often starts with a whisper. It's easy to look at someone else's journey and feel you are behind. We are all different. We have our different journeys. But the truth is, you are not late. There's no divine stopwatch in the sky timing your progress. Spirit doesn't measure worth by speed. It honors alignment, divine intention, and authenticity. That's why we're always talking about aligning ourselves. You are right on time for your path. You are right on time. We always talk about the power of now. Even the scripture talks about now is the acceptable time. Power, so much power in the now. Trust that you are unfolding perfectly, and your unfolding is happening exactly as it should. The oak tree and the wildflower don't bloom at the same pace, yet both are beautiful in their season. You are growing roots, the sun rises slowly, but its light reaches everyone. Even the stars took years to shine. This is how greatness grows, not with strain, but with steady presence, consistency. Keep tuning in as often as you can. And as often as you do that, there will always be a quickening within. Something again, babies fall when they learn to walk. No one scolds them. We cheer. Be willing to start imperfectly. Be faithful in your early steps. Greatness has nothing to prove. It doesn't shout. It radiates. A rose doesn't compete with a daisy. It just blooms. No competition. I think I've seen something about no competition in destiny. Your journey is different. Mine is different. We all walk it out. So walk humbly in your power with nothing to prove and everything to offer. You don't need to have it all figured out to be a teacher. No. The way you grow, the lessons you are learning, and the honesty of your journey, that's what speaks to others. That's your ministry. So tonight we live not with noise, but with knowing that something sacred is already in motion. Something is happening already. Those beginnings, however small, are not waiting for permission to become great. They're already holy, already enough. You are enough just the way you are. You may not yet see the fullness of what's unfolding, but you are being formed in the dark like seeds in the soil and stars in the sky. There's no need to force what's divine. There's only one invitation to walk in alignment and let Spirit do what Spirit does. Multiply the meaning of what you dare to begin. Whatever you place in the hands of the universe, that's what it will work with. And it's just perfect at doing that. Author Harte says, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. That's all you're required to do. Just show up, showing up. And know this, what you start in love will always find its way to light. So plant boldly, water gently, and trust the mystery that turns seeds into forests. And by the time you look back, you'll be surprised. How could this have happened through me? Just with alignment, with showing up. The world may not notice your beginning, but spirit rejoices every time you say yes. And that is just enough. That is just perfect. And just know that you can do all things. Do not despise those small beginnings. That nudge, that inner calls, they are the seeds of your tomorrow. And so it is.